Most interesting thing in tech, we may have reached a moment of weird circular absurdity in the fight between the Department of War and Anthropic. So last week, Department of War says, hey, nobody can use Anthropic anymore. 6 months, we're done with this thing, and not only that, we're going to try to kill the company. We've labeled it a supply chain risk, which is kind of an insane action. You normally only do that to an adversarial company, but everybody was upset, so they labeled it a supply chain risk. They tried to cut off all of the vendors to Anthropic, including perhaps Amazon and all of its hosting services. So the Department of War actively trying to kill Anthropic. However, we also have this war in Iran going on, and it turns out the people in the Department of War really like using Anthropic's tools. Like loading in targets, analyzing operations, simulating operations. Anthropic works seamlessly inside of Palantir's Maven technology. So there's a lot of reporting coming out about how valuable Anthropic is to the war. And in fact, in the quote that made my eyes almost go to the back of my head, somebody involved in the military planning in Iran told the Washington Post that if Anthropic cut off access to its tools, the Department of War would use its legal authority to make sure that it still had access to the tools. So you can imagine a situation where the Department of War is both trying to use legal authority to shut down Anthropic and using legal authority to make sure that they can keep using Anthropic. It is a very peculiar situation. My suggestion, anybody who works at the Defense Department, would be maybe stop with the supply chain risk stuff. Maybe go back and negotiate with Anthropic so you can find a compromise so that you can keep using these tools in this war, which might go on for more than 6 months. Anyway, it's a very weird situation, and it's definitely today's most interesting thing in tech.